Yield farming is becoming more and more popular within the cryptocurrency community. Unfortunately, many farmers are not risk aware or only partially risk aware. And one of the main risks, and often also a risk that is not well understood, is impermanent loss. So therefore, understanding impermanent loss is one of the key factors in order to become a successful yield farmer. Hello and welcome to Finance with Axel. Yield farming has many inherent risks. First, rug pulls. Rug pull is a malicious maneuver in the crypto industry where developers abandon a project and run away with investors' funds. Second, smart contract risks. A bug in the code can lead to a potential or complete loss once a malicious actor spots the loophole and exploits it for personal gains. Third, often overlooked but very important to understand, impermanent loss. Impermanent loss is represented as a monetary loss that occurs as a consequence of providing liquidity in an automated market maker pool versus keeping the asset untouched in the wallet. We often observe this phenomenon making a large impact on liquidity pools where assets have to be provided at the same ratio, for example 50-50. This is a formula to calculate the impermanent loss. If you feel like turning off after seeing this formula, please stay with me. I will explain everything in great detail without using too much mathematics, and be assured that you will understand everything in the end. When you provide liquidity to a pool, this usually has to be at the same fixed rate. Most of the time this will be 50-50. So half of the pool's value has to persist of coin A and the rest is coin B. The split is done in fiat terms, and if the price of the assets relative to one another changes, the composition of the pool will change too. Let's make an example, as impermanent loss is best explained by examples. You decide to provide liquidity in a DAI Ethereum pool. DAI is a stable coin pegged to the US dollar, so one DAI is always worth $1. In our example, ETH has an initial price of $100, so we have to provide 100 DAI for each Ethereum. We will invest 1k total, so we have to provide to the pool 500 DAI and 5 ETH. The stablecoin portion of the pool is supposed to remain stable, but as we all know, ETH is very volatile and the price will fluctuate quite a lot, and that's why the price of ETH might triple in value in 1 year's time. I will now calculate the impermanent loss under these conditions. After 1 year, if we would have just held the assets, our coins would now be worth $2,000. If you provided liquidity to a pool, you would realize that some of your coins apparently got missing. Instead of the original held 5 Ether, you would only have 2.89 coins left. Your stablecoin balance would increase a bit, but not enough to end up at the same wealth compared to just holding. The 2.89 Ether and the 866.03 DAI would just be worth $1,732.05. Your impermanent loss would be 13.4%. The loss is called impermanent since the token of the pool could return to their original price relative to one another in the future. However, in reality, this is very improbable, and liquidity providers will most of the time end up incurring significant losses that remain once they withdraw the liquidity from the pool. Once you withdraw the money from the pool, the impermanent loss will become permanent. Now you might wonder if there is also something called an impermanent gain. Unfortunately, there will never be an impermanent gain. The more the relative price between the two pooled assets change, the larger the impermanent loss will be, as illustrated in this graphic. The best case would be that the relative price between the assets does not change at all, then the impermanent loss would be zero. The problem with two volatile assets is that the relative price of the two will almost always change and you will always incur impermanent loss. To avoid impermanent loss, many investors search for pools with prices that are stable relative to each other. Many investors try to avoid impermanent loss, and this can only be done when you invest in pools where the prices of the two assets relative to each other stay the same, and you could keep the impermanent loss at zero or almost zero if you would, for example, invest into a stablecoin pool. The price of stablecoins usually is pegged to a base currency, and there should be no impermanent loss in this case. Keep in mind that one of the stablecoins loses its peg and falls sharply. This can lead to catastrophic losses, since the actual stablecoin would be largely exchanged into the other coin that is dropping. You now might ask, why should anyone provide liquidity to a pool if they always will experience impermanent loss, and this loss could be very big when the volatility between the assets is great? They do so because they will be incentivized by the pool with pool rewards, and although they have impermanent loss, this could still be very, very profitable. If you, for example, provide liquidity on Uniswap, you will collect trading fees. Each trade that goes through a pool pays a 0.3% fee, which will be distributed proportionally to the individuals investing in the pool. So you can still make money even if you have impermanent loss. This is the case if the impermanent loss is smaller than the collected fees. On top of that, many pools also got additional incentives for participants. Often extra tokens in addition to the fees collected will be awarded on top. This is another source of income for the pool to outweigh the impermanent loss. Despite impermanent loss, rug pulls, and smart contract risk, yield farming can still be very profitable, but it's important to choose the right pools to provide liquidity to. This involves a lot of work. You have to do your own research in order to avoid all or at least most of the scams. It is important that you don't invest based on potential RPRs only. Don't let FOMO kick in when you see 3 or even 4-digit numbers. Choose token pairs with projects behind it that actually build something, because their coins should have actual utility in order to assure that the rewards paid will not end up worthless in addition to impermanent loss. Many pools and farms are Ponzi schemes, and in Ponzi's you either have to try to get in early and quit before it's too late, which obviously is playing with fire, and I would advise everyone to stay away from it completely. That's why it's so important to do your own research. I, for my part, want to stay away from Ponzi's completely. But if you like to gamble, and if you can stand to burn your hands sometimes, or maybe even often, it is definitely helpful to recognize Ponzi schemes in advance and not to confuse them with solid projects. Also, insanely important, never put all your eggs in one basket, but always diversify wildly, because if a project turns out to be a rug pull, your other pools should ideally absorb those losses. Keep in mind that I'm not a financial advisor. Also keep in mind that you in general should not listen to a random dude on the internet who might be living in his parents' basement. Then, in doubt, better don't invest. Only invest when you feel comfortable. Never risk more than you can afford to lose. FOMO is the dark side of the force, and you should definitely stay away from it. May the force be with you. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video and could benefit from it, please share it with other people who might also get something out of this content. And definitely do all the healthy YouTube things like liking, subscribing and so on. Yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.